History is the cornerstone of our collective memory, and knowing it means passing down the truth, ensuring that the lessons of the past guide our steps into the future. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 was a controversial piece of legislation that played a pivotal role in America's history, particularly in the context of slavery and the burgeoning abolitionist movement. Its enactment deepened the sectional divides that would eventually lead to the Civil War and left a lasting impact on the lives of African Americans, both enslaved and free. The act was part of the Compromise of 1850, a package of 5 bills passed in September of 1850 that aimed to diffuse the political confrontation between slave and free states following the Mexican-American War. The acquisition of territories from Mexico had raised questions about the expansion of slavery into the newly formed states. The compromise, therefore, sought to balance the interests of both sides. However, the Fugitive Slave Act was seen by many in the North as a severe and punitive measure designed to appease the Southern slaveholding interests. Under the Act's provisions, federal commissioners were given the authority to issue warrants for arresting alleged fugitive slaves. The Act also stipulated that special federal commissioners could determine the fate of alleged fugitives without the benefit of a jury trial or even testimony by the accused individual. This was a significant departure from previous laws concerning fugitive slaves, which had generally allowed for some form of legal process. The law imposed heavy penalties on anyone who aided a slave in escaping or interfered with their capture. This included hefty fines and imprisonment, measures that were intended to deter the activities of the Underground Railroad, which was a network of secret routes and safe houses used by enslaved African Americans to escape to free states in Canada. The enforcement of the Fugitive Slave Act brought the issue of slavery to the doorstep of the free states, making it a national problem rather than a regional one confined to the South. It forced individuals and communities in the North to confront the moral and ethical implications of slavery directly, as federal marshals hunted down fugitives in their towns and cities, often with the assistance of local law enforcement. One notable case that highlighted the brutal realities of the Fugitive Slave Act was that of Anthony Burns, a young African-American man living in Boston. In 1854, Burns was arrested under the provisions of the Act. His trial and subsequent rendition to slavery in Virginia sparked massive protests in Boston and intensified Northern resistance to the law. The case of Burns not only galvanized public opinion against the Fugitive Slave Act, but also fueled the abolitionist movement, with more people joining the cause in defiance of the law. Implementing the act also led to numerous acts of bravery and resistance. Many Northerners, who may have previously remained silent on the issue of slavery, were now moved to action, creating and reinforcing networks that sought to protect fugitive slaves. This period saw the rise of prominent abolitionists who defied the law, such as Harriet Beecher Stowe, whose novel Uncle Tom's Cabin was partly inspired by the injustices wrought by the Fugitive Slave Act. The act also significantly impacted the legal and political landscape of the United States. It led to several states passing personal liberty laws, which sought to counteract the effects of the Fugitive Slave Act by ensuring a degree of legal protection for escaped slaves. These laws, however, were often challenged in courts, leading to a series of legal battles that further stoked national tensions. As the 1850s progressed, the enforcement of the Fugitive Slave Act became increasingly unpopular and impractical in many parts of the North. The resistance it met not only demonstrated the growing divide between the North and South, but also underscored the increasing impossibility of containing the moral and political contradictions of slavery within the bounds of existing laws and compromises. In retrospect, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 was a critical moment in the prelude to the Civil War. It tested the will of the abolitionists, challenged the conscience of the North, and laid bare the inhumanity of the slave system. Its passage and enforcement catalyzed a series of events that ultimately led to the Southern states' secession and the Civil War outbreak. The Act's legacy is a testament to the complexities of moral governance and the law's power to shape societal norms and provoke resistance. It remains a stark reminder of a time when the law enforced inhumanity, and when ordinary citizens were called upon to stand against what they saw as a profound moral wrong.